The situation isn't as bad as last time around, but it is still pretty bleak. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am going to take you through all of the books that I want to read in November. I have chosen out 9 books from my Netgalley shelf that I am hopefully going to get through by the end of November. I'm going to take part of this as part of Netgalley November, which is run by Em and her books on Twitter. There are a lot of templates, there are a lot of prompts that you can fill out, and I have tried to fit a book into each of the prompts to really try and get my Netgalley shelf looking a little bit healthier. At the moment, I have got a feedback ratio of about 71%, which is pretty good. But I do feel like there is a little bit more of a spur that I can take on for this, so let's take a look what I'm going to be reading. Prompt number 1 is a book that was published this year, and for that I am going to read The Cozy Cottage in Ireland by Julie Kaplan. This book is part of the Romantic Escape series, but you don't necessarily need to have read all of the previous books to have read this one. This one is, as you can tell by the title, set in Ireland. It's set in a cookery school and we're following Hannah, who comes over from the UK to take a cooking course here and starts falling for one of the cooking mentors. Hannah was a minor character in the previous book, so we did get to know her a little bit better. However, I am not really expecting there to be so much crossover because, as I've said before, these are more so companion novels more than an actual flowing series of books. So if you haven't read any of the books in the Romantic Escape series yet, but you like the sound of what I'm going to tell you when I've read this at the end of November, then go and check it out for yourself. The next prompt is The Oldest Approval on Your Shelf, and this is one that I am genuinely looking forward to and have said for time and time again I'm going to get around to reading. It is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book has been out for so long that I actually have a full copy of it. I have got a physical copy of it and I'm going to try and actually read that one rather than on my Kindle if I feel like I need a break from e-reading. This one follows Eve Brown, the youngest of the 3 Brown sisters in the Brown Sister trilogy. Eve is very flighty, she's not quite as independent as her 2 older sisters, she's still living at home, but her parents decide to cut her off from the family fortune and tell her that she needs to go out, be a little bit more independent and find her own financial situation. So she goes to a hotel B&B on an interview and on her way out accidentally breaks the arm of the owner. And then this kind of snowballs into Eve getting the job that she's not fully qualified for, and then she starts falling for this hotel owner, and I am absolutely so excited to finish off this trilogy, but also a little bit disappointed to be leaving them behind. Next prompt is a book beginning with N. For this one, I have chosen to go with No Words by Meg Cabot. This is the 3rd in the Little Bridge Island series. I've already read the first, but I haven't read the second. Like with the Romantic Escape series, I don't really think that matters because this seems to be more of a companion novel series than an actual flowing book series. This book follows Jo, who is an author of children's book series with a talking cat in them. She is off to a literary festival on Little Bridge Island, which is off the coast of Florida, and she hears that her arch nemesis Will is going to be there. His book is a romance book and it is absolutely storming up the charts at the moment. Nobody can shut up about it. Everybody is really excited about reading it. And she's feeling a little bit of the green-eyed monster because they have had a quite tumultuous and rocky relationship in the past. But it turns out that not only is Will also at this kind of event, he's hosting it and he's also ready to make amends with Jo. The next prompt is Your Latest Approval, and for this I'm going to go with a non-fiction book. It's Nobody Panic by Tessa Coates and Stevie Martin. The 2 of them run a podcast with the same name as the book, and I listen to that every Tuesday morning religiously. It has absolutely helped me out in so many ways. It's kind of an adulting how-to podcast. It tells you things about how to move to a new city, which was obviously quite helpful recently. How to cook, how to take care of a houseplant, how to make your rented apartment feel like home. I've absolutely loved the insight that they have given so far, and I'm really hoping that this book is going to expand on the topics that they've already talked about on the podcast, give a little bit more of that advice, but also expand on the topic a little bit more and talk about things that they hadn't discussed on the podcast or something that came up after they had finished recording it, and I genuinely am really excited to read this one. The next prompt is to read a book with a green cover because green is the main colour of the Netgalley website. For this, I have decided to go with quite an old one for me, and that is The Intimacy Experiment by Rosie Danan. This book follows The Roommate, which came out at the end of 2020, and I really, really loved that one. It had fantastic steamy scenes. Here you're following Naomi, who was a side character in the first book. She is a good friend of Josh, and she's a co-worker of Josh, who was a main character in the first novel. And here she meets a rabbi called Ethan. Ethan has just become the rabbi of a local synagogue, but the numbers at the congregation are kind of slipping. And he decides to team up with Naomi and to make this kind of intimacy experiment seminar where they come together and talk about intimacy and feelings and connections and relationships. But while all this is going on, they simply cannot ignore the growing feelings that they have for each other. Next prompt is a book that's yet to be released. For this, I went with Walking on Sunshine by Giovanna Fletcher. I've read maybe 2 of Giovanna's books before, and I've got a couple of others on my Kindle and on my shelves. But I'm really excited to see how this one goes because I feel like it might tip the scales as to whether or not she's a favourite author of mine. Mike has lost his wife, Pia, to an illness, and she has left behind a series of letters for him and their friends to kind of help rebuild their lives, help them to move on, give them something that's going to distract them from the grief and the pain that they're going through. This is a genre that I really enjoy reading. I've read a couple of books that feature this recently, and I am really excited to see how this one plays out. The next prompt is a book beginning with the. For this one, I have gone with another non-fiction book, and it is The Last Irish Question by Glenn Patterson. Glenn Patterson was brought up in Northern Ireland as a quite liberal Protestant man, and he now takes a look at the Republic of Ireland through the eyes of this kind of person to see, is Irish reunification ever going to be a possibility? As an Irish person myself, this is obviously something that I am going to associate with quite heavily, but I am really excited to see how this topic is dealt with because I know that it can be very divisive and it definitely needs to be dealt with well. The next prompt is a debut author, and I have chosen to read The Arctic Curry Club by Danny Red. This one follows Maya, who has moved to the Arctic Circle to be with her boyfriend Ryan, who was relocated there, and that is when her life starts to fall apart. She's not settling in well, the darkness pretty much all day is really starting to get her down, and herself and Ryan have become quite distant since she moved up. To bring her spirits back up, she opens her mother's old recipe book and starts cooking curries that she remembers from her childhood when they were living in Bangalore. The final prompt is your most anticipated read, and there was absolutely no other book that could fit into this one than On a Night Like This by Lindsay Kelk. Lindsay Kelk is my autobi author. I have loved everything she has written so far, and I cannot wait to see what this one is about. You're following Fran, who is working as an assistant to a glamorous celebrity on a yacht in the Mediterranean, when one night she meets a man called Evan, and they have a phenomenal time together. They really connect, and it turns out that they come from different worlds, so they think they're not going to gel with each other quite well when they get back on land. But fate has had another idea, and they keep kind of serendipitously interrupting each other's lives. Those are the 9 books that I will hopefully have ticked off by the end of November. Let's check back in then and see how it actually went. Have you read any of the books that are on that list? Is there anything that you think that I should start off with straight away? Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.